Well, everyone, we made it. This is the 50,000 subscriber special video. And I just want to take a moment before we begin to once again gush at how incredible you guys are and how never-ending your support has been for me and the channel. When I rebooted the channel back in March last year, at the very start of this whole lockdown situation, I never imagined I would go from 741 subscribers to 50,000 now, less than a year later. It has been an incredible journey, and I just really want to give a huge thank you to everyone who has supported me in whatever way, whether that's watching, liking, commenting, or subscribing. Anything you do is a real boost to the channel, so I really do appreciate it, and I appreciate that you've seen the potential in the channel, and you have supported me. That is really great. And I wanted to do something special, like I said, a big ranking for 50,000 subs, so it seems fitting to me to do my top 50 favourite Bleach volume covers. And of course, I do love Bleach's volume covers. I think they are striking and minimalistic and just do a great job of showcasing the characters involved and their personalities. And, you know, I loved it back in the day, waiting to find out which character was going to have the honour of gracing the next volume cover, trying to guess what character that was going to be, and then lamenting the characters who never got a chance to have a volume of their own. Kyoraku being the obvious casualty here. But I'm happy to say that after much grueling debate, research, random note-taking and equations, as you can see, I've come up with a list that I am fairly happy with, although I think it's safe to say that it's subject to change nearly all the time. So many of these volume covers are so dear to me, and I love the artwork involved. However, of course, there are 74 Bleach volumes in total, and we're only doing a top 50. So that means I had to eliminate 24 right off the bat, and that was already pretty hard as it was. So if your favourite is in that 24 that didn't make the cut, I do apologise. And before we get things started, if you haven't subscribed yet, it's not too late. If you press that button now, you're in the perfect place for Bleach content like this every single week. And channel memberships are now live on the channel. You can become a member by hitting the join button down below, and that's just another way of supporting me and the channel. So, without further ado, let's get on with this. My top 50 Bleach volume covers. Obviously a completely subjective list, it's just my opinion, and I'd love to know your favourite volume covers in the comments below. And kicking things off at number 50 then is volume 11 with Renji on the front, a star and a stray dog. I love his pose here, it's really intimidating, there's a great view of Zabimaru, and his red hair really helps this volume cover stand out from those that came before. Number 49 is volume 6, the Death Trilogy Overture with Kisuke on the front. I love the shadiness of this one, and I love the way the green colour seems to change as it flows down his Haori. Great cover. Next up is volume 30 with Cayenne on the front, There Is No Heart Without You. Just a really nice, cheerful cover for a character who unfortunately is never actually living during the story's timeline. Or maybe this is Aranero. 47 is Ulquiorra's first cover on volume 22, Conquistadores. And it's not a bad cover, I like Ulquiorra, this is very Ulquiorra, there's just not an awful lot going on here. Number 46 is volume 41, Heart, with Yami on the front cover. And Yami was probably always going to get a volume cover, he's a pretty major Espada, even if he's not very popular, and I like the movement and the intensity of this one. Volume 25, No Shaking Throne, is up next with Hollow Ichigo or Zangetsu on the front. It's pretty cool, again pretty intense, but it's not the most interesting cover ever. At number 44 we have Kenpachi on volume 13, The Undead. And again, this one, it probably suffers from being a slightly earlier volume in Bleach's lifespan. It's not the most interesting pose for Kenpachi, though it is cool having him fill up the entire volume. That's just how imposing he is. Plus I also like that there's like a uncensored version of this one where he's covered in blood, that's pretty cool. Number 43 is Xyloporo Grands on volume 31, Don't Kill My Volupture. And again, Xyloporo is not one of my favourite characters, but I do like the composition of this cover. I really like how he's being dragged off the page by his own hand. That's a really nice detail. Next up we have volume 17, Rosa Rubicundior Lilio Candidior, that's not easy to say, featuring Yoruichi. It's a cool cover, she's doing a really cool pose. I like how 17 and 18 are kind of like opposites, with Soifon and Yoruichi fighting each other, but there's a lot of empty space on this one, and again, I think if it was a volume cover later on, Kubo could have been even more dynamic. Number 41 on this list is Yukio on volume 53, The Deathberry Returns. The weakest in a very strong bunch, in my opinion. I absolutely love the Fullbring Arc volume covers, and I really like the kind of pop art shading on Yukio, and the pose is really unique as well. At number 40, we have Volume 8, The Blade and Me, with an upside-down Zangetsu on it. In my opinion, it was between this one and 61, both of them featuring Zangetsu, but as far as I'm concerned, although I think Zangetsu is probably drawn better on 61, it's really just riffing off this original idea of having him upside down, and this one did it a bit better. At number 39, we have Volume 64, Death in Vision, featuring Gremmy. Originally, I was actually considering not having this make the top 50 at all, but on closer inspection, I did come to appreciate it a bit more. I like how Gremmy is almost like fading out or into existence. I think that's a really cool little detail. This one is hurt considerably more on the Viz covers where there's no massive title. It looks really empty, but here, I quite like it. Next up is Volume 19, The Black Moon Rising, and in my opinion this is the quintessential Ichigo cover. He's in his Bankai, you know, he's just activated it as well. It's a momentous moment in Bleach. The volume itself is not that crazy or really that interesting, but it is a really cool image of Ichigo. Making number 37 on the list is volume number 36, Turn Back the Pendulum, featuring Shinji's back. I actually quite like it though, it's a really cool concept, and it's also cool seeing Shinji 110 years ago with his incredibly flowing locks. Taking the 36th spot on this list is volume 42, Shock of the Queen, featuring Harabel. And while she's a cool character with a cool design, this volume cover just wants to give us a great view of her armpit. Again, I feel like it probably could have been a bit better, but I do also like the intensity and the power conveyed here. At number 35 is volume 35, Higher Than the Moon, with Mayuri on the front. And again, it's a great one for Mayuri. There is that subtle creepiness, that level of insanity that you can see in his face. I think maybe it could have been creepier, but I like the subtlety here, and I think it works really well. Next up is Yamamoto on volume 45, The Burnout Inferno. And I was wondering which Yamamoto cover to place higher than the other. I like this one, it's dynamic and the shading is really nice, but it's also not really doing anything special or conveying anything that meaningful. It's just a badass picture of Yama. At number 33, we have our next Fullbring Arc cover being volume 51, Love Me Bitterly, Loth Me Sweetly, featuring Riruka, and again, she really benefits from the incredibly dynamic shading that Kubo was doing during this arc, that in my opinion created some of Bleach's absolute best volume covers. I also love her pose. Coming in at number 32 is my boy Askin Naklavar on volume 68, The Ordinary Piece. And of course, Askin, I'd have loved to have ranked him higher, and I do love his pose, it's great, but I really hate the pink hue covering absolutely everything. Completely ruins the volume cover for me as far as it going any higher than this one. Number 31 is Battlefield Burning, with Renji on the cover again, and this is the penultimate volume of the entire series. I always thought Renji was a strange choice for this volume cover, but he does look undeniably really cool here. I like the full body shot, the slightly more somber tone. You can see how the character has changed between now and volume 11, and it's cool that Battlefield Burning is a chapter title that is not actually a chapter. And rounding out the 30s is volume number 34, King of the Kill, with Nell on the front cover. Again, another really dynamic pose. It reminds me of the Harabel one, but done slightly better. I really like the way the sword is also in motion as well, that's really cool. At number 29, we have volume 56, March of the Star-Cross, with Kurge Opie on the front cover. I love his pose, I love the smug attitude, and he just looks so cool here, holding his little cap. But once again, Kubo's tendency to just do these really obnoxious single colour hues, these block colour hues in the 1,000 Year Blood War arc, really holds it back. But I have to say, great cover all round, and Kurge is a really cool character to get a cover. Yamamoto makes his second appearance at number 28 on this list with volume 58, The Fire. And I chose this one over the Burnout Inferno to go higher because I do like how somber and meaningful this one is. And actually, the orange hue does work quite nicely here. The entire thing is themed around fire, but Yamamoto himself looks so sad and reflective, and it works really well. At number 27, we have volume 18, The Deathberry Returns, with Soifon on the front cover. Again, it's comparable to the Yoruichi one. They do seem to be fighting each other on the covers, but Soifon got the better deal out of the two of them as far as I'm concerned, with a very dynamic pose, a mid-action kick. It looks cool. Number 26 sees volume 23, Mala Suerte, with Ikaku on the cover, and again, I love the perspective, I love the angle, I love that he has Hozuki Maru. He just looks really cool and a total badass, and he's definitely embodying the 11th division here. And at the halfway mark, at number 25, we have volume 44, Vice It, with Tosen on the front cover. And again, this one is so striking. This one does feel really minimalist, with Tosen himself very kind of almost small in the corner, but he's doing a really cool pose, and the shadow work is off the charts here. And starting off the second half of the volume covers at number 24 is Grimjo on volume 32, Howling. And I like this one. Again, it's doing something different. It's really nice seeing Grimjo's Pantera form, but at the same time, he's also not really on the cover that much, so for me, it couldn't go any higher. At number 23, we have volume 59, The Battle, featuring Yachiru Unohana, and again, it's a really cool one, another character who was totally deserving of getting one. Not entirely sure what her hair is doing, but it's still a cool cover. Next up is volume 33, featuring Neutra Jiruga, The Bad Joke. And again, I think this is just another one that is lovely to look at. I think the pose is really nice, dynamic, takes up a massive amount of the page. Neutra, of course, is a huge, physically massive enemy, so it's really cool seeing him have such an imposing appearance on the volume cover. I also think the colours work really well on this one. The slight accent of yellow goes really nicely with the title, and it's not too in your face. And at number 21, we have my favourite character, Aizen, on volume 48, God is Dead. I like it, it's a cool volume cover. For Aizen's final last stand, I would have liked something a little crazier, a little more dynamic, and a little more interesting, because the pose itself also looks a little bit rigid, but it's drawn undeniably well, and this is also my favourite version of Aizen's transformations. Starting out the top 20, we have Uryu on volume 72, My Last Words. And this is such a radical departure from Uryu's original volume cover way back, like volume 4 or something like that. This is so much better. And actually, I really love the art on this page. I love that Uryu is looking off into the distance, removing his Sternritter cloak. It says so much about where his character is at this point in the story. We have another Sternritter at number 19, featuring Hashwolf on volume 70, Friend. And it's a simple cover, but I actually really like it. I think it's really effective. It's way better than the Basby cover, in my opinion. The Basby one just doesn't really suit him again. I'd have liked something a bit more devious and maniacal for Basby, maybe showcasing his fire. But Hashwolf really works with the whole stoic, aloof look. And here, the hue is not too oppressive and the colours work really nicely. I will say, much like Soifon on Yoruichi, it's really nice how Basby and Hashwolf are kind of looking at each other, though, a really cool detail. At number 18 is volume number 15, featuring Izuru, The Beginning of the Death of Tomorrow. And this is such a almost out of place volume cover, but I love what it's doing here. I love what Kubo is doing with darkness, creating what looks like a prison around Izuru. It works really well to show his depression and the problems he's going through during the Soul Society arc. Awesome cover. And speaking of darkness, volume 67 is up next, Black, featuring Ichibei on the cover. It's looking just demonic, downright frightening and imposing, and it's really great. A great showcase for the leader of the Zero Division, who's actually one of the most terrifying Shinigami out there. Volume number 55 is next, at number 16, with Yuha Bark on the front cover, The Blood Warfare. The introduction to the 1000-Year Blood War arc, and Kubo wasn't going crazy on his hues yet, so we get this really nice picture of Yuha. Like I said in my video about him, he's at his best when he's imposing with masses of screen presence, and that really comes across here with him taking up an enormous amount of this cover. Starting out the top 15 now, and where better to begin than at the very beginning of the series, with volume number 1, The Death and the Strawberry, featuring Ichigo. And this is iconic, you know, what else can you really say? This pose of Ichigo with the wristband and everything like that, it's completely iconic. It's not my favourite cover, but you have to love it somewhere. At number 14 is volume 38, Fear for Fight, featuring Hisagi. It's a great cover, it makes really good use of Kazushini, and there's lovely amounts of motion on here. Really nice artwork. At number 13 is volume 60, featuring Masaki Kurosaki, Everything But the Rain. Really, really nice and completely unexpected up until this point that Ichigo's mother was going to get a cover. And also, again, Kubo really holds back on that hue on this one, giving her her actual colours. It looks really nice. At number 12, we have volume 14 with Hanataro on it, White Tower Rocks. And I'm surprised that Hanataro made it this high in any kind of ranking list, but I love this cover. It's so dynamic, one of the most dynamic we ever have. I love that it's a full body shot of him flying towards the reader, essentially trying to catch the pills that he's dropped. It's Hanataro in a nutshell, and it looks really great. And at number 11, nearly cracking the top 10, we have Gin on the cover of volume 20, End of Hypnosis. In my opinion, this is the definitive Gin volume cover. It's far superior to 47 in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, I like 47, but there's a lot of white on it. It's not really that interesting. I get what Kubo's going for with Gin facing the other way, all that sort of thing. But this, in my opinion, is unadulterated Gin. He looks great, he looks creepy, amazing shadow work. I love the pose, even though I'm not even really sure what he's doing, but he looks awesome. Alright, here we are, my top 10 favourite volume covers in all of Bleach. Thanks for watching if you've been watching all the way to this point. And like I said before, let me know your favourite volume covers in the comments below, I'd love to hear it. But starting out at number 10 is the very last cover in the series, volume 74, The Death and the Strawberry, featuring the only cover to have two characters on it, Ichigo and Rukia. It makes total sense to have these guys grace the final cover. They are the characters at where Bleach began. Their meeting was the catalyst for the entire story, and it's really nice to end the whole thing essentially where it began. But both of them are obviously older now, more mature, and they have their new designs. It's a nice cover. The hue, the orange hue, is fitting. It's not too bad. I like it. At number 9, we have volume 50, The Six Fullbringers, featuring Ginjo. Once again, just a masterwork of shadow design. It looks so nice. I love the way Ginjo's black leather jacket just goes into the shadow on his shirt. It looks amazing. The pose is cool as well. I like the way the alcohol is flowing across the front of the volume. The alcohol part of that whole Fullbringer explanation was never my favourite bit, but I do really like it. It would have been cool to see Cross of Scaffold on here. At number 8, we have another Fullbring arc one with volume 54 featuring Rukia, Goodbye to Our Execution. Finishing off the Execution arc with a Shinigami on the cover, and it was really, really nice. Once again, echoing the start of the series with Rukia on the telephone pole, and this volume cover is rare. We don't have a lot where there are characters actually interacting with inanimate objects. There are a couple, but I really like how this one is drawn. The actual pole is like not there, it's just the shadow. Really, really cool. At number 7, we have volume 24, Imminent God Blues, with Grimjo on the front cover. This is vastly superior to his other cover in my opinion. I really like the pose. It's incredibly in your face, just as you would expect Grimjo to be, but the shadow work is so good. The shadow on his hand makes the whole thing look so sinister, and he just has this crazed look on his face. It's a great cover, really striking. And speaking of another Espada having a vastly superior cover, number 6 goes to volume number 40, The Lust, featuring Ulquiorra in his first release form. It's a simple cover, but I actually really like that. I think it works incredibly well for Ulquiorra. I think it also looks quite sinister, cutting half of his face off, but the most impressive part for me is of course his black wing, which takes up the majority of the cover and just looks really great with this whole brushstroke effect. Okay, it's time for the top 5 now, my top 5 favourite volume covers of the lot. And coming in at number 5, we have volume 57, Out of Bloom, featuring Byakuya Kuchiki. Again, vastly, vastly superior to his original volume cover. I love that this one captures him right in the middle of his battle with Asnot. Byakuya is bloodied, he's battered, his clothes are ripped, he's pulling his sword around. It's a really great volume cover that really captures the intensity of the first invasion. At number 4 on the list, we have Barragan Louisenbarn on the front of volume 43, Kingdom of Hollows. And what a great cover this is. I'm really sad that Stark didn't get a volume cover, but Barragan deserved it with how cool his resurrection was. He looks awesome, and Kubo makes great use of it, making it appear incredibly kingly and overbearing and just covering the entire volume. He looks like a spectre of death, and I love it. And speaking of looking like a spectre, my third favourite volume cover goes to volume 63, Here Fear Here, featuring Asnot. In my opinion, this is the best 1000 Year Blood War arc volume cover of the lot. It's the one where the dark hue actually works really well to its advantage, creating a really creepy atmosphere. Az himself looks awesome. He's just kind of like staring up at the sky, his eyes rolled into the back of his head. There's a really grisly detail that you can't see all that well on the actual cover version itself, but he's bleeding from his eyes. It's just a really great cover that really captures not only the character, but also the darkness of the arc, where that overbearing hue actually works really well. His elongated neck helps make him look really creepy too. Kubo did Az justice here. And my second favourite volume cover is also featuring another creepy character, this time Tsukishima on volume 52, End of Bond. And when I first saw this cover, I just fell in love with it. Tsukishima is already one of my favourite characters in the series, so that probably helped, but as far as I'm concerned, this cover nails his demeanour, his personality, and his overall creepiness, giving you this really cool perspective looking up at him from the ground. You can barely see the glint of purple of his eye through his hair. I love that his bookmark is taking up a prominent slot on the image itself to show you exactly what is going on in this volume. This is the horror volume of Bleach, you know, this is when everything terrible is happening to Ichigo, and it's really powerful. And the Fullbring art just does so good with its shading. I'd have loved every single volume in Bleach to look like the Fullbring arc ones. I think they're fantastic, and Tsukishima is nearly the best Fullbring arc volume of them all. And in first place, my absolute favourite Bleach volume cover has to go to Volume 49, The Lost Agent, featuring Ichigo on the front. And Ichigo might feel like a bland choice, and I kind of get that. I wasn't necessarily expecting it either, but I went through the volume covers again as I was researching this video, and this one stands out on so many levels. It's possibly one of the single best drawings Kubo has ever done, and especially of Ichigo. He looks incredible here, but the amount of layers going on, not only setting the tone for the rest of the Fullbring volumes to come with the incredible black shading used here, but also a great use of white and colour interspersed throughout. But not only that, this is a cover unlike any before. Obviously Ichigo is wearing an outfit that he never wears in the actual canon manga. That's really cool, getting this idea of a home life Ichigo as he starts his new life without any powers. But more importantly, it shows a mature and older Ichigo. This is the time skip now. The cover numbers have changed to red, going on with the 49. We've left the rest of the series behind us. It's a new Ichigo for a new era, a new style of volume cover for the next section of Bleach. And I absolutely love that. I think that really comes across well here that we are entering new territory, and it is impeccably drawn, and it really stands out to me as just this amazing piece of art, essentially. I mean, all of these, there's 74 art pieces behind me as far as the volumes go, but I think 49 really stands out to me as just being a masterpiece. You know, it looks incredible, and it really importantly conveys that feeling of this is something new, this is a new era of Bleach. So for me, 49 is at the top. But that's it for this video, guys. Once again, thank you so very much for 50,000 subscribers. I hope you continue to enjoy everything we put out here on the channel. Like I said, if you haven't, consider supporting me by joining the channel as a member, and also by subscribing, of course. That is just the best thing you can do, and I'd really appreciate it. But even if you're just here watching the video, that's amazing too. Alright guys, but until next time, I'll catch you later, and I'll see you then. Goodbye.